Yeah. Uh. Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Press Coverage, brought to you by the Going for Two Live Network. I'm your host, Kyle Senra, and joining me for this episode is Jamie Calandro. How you doing, Jamie?
I'm doing great, Kyle. Appreciate you having me on. I've been looking forward to this all weekend.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this as well. I've been really enjoying this entire series of press coverage episodes, but this entire season talking to different teachers, and we'll jam it up a little bit and talk about the music teaching in this episode. Part of this, as I always call them a fantasy football interview in the title, but there is of course always fantasy football talk on the Going for Two Live Network. But it's a great opportunity. I'm certainly looking forward to getting to know more about you, Jamie.
Yeah, thanks. And I didn't realize we had this music teacher connection until this. So I'm excited to talk to you as well.
Yeah, I guess I have more to share with the listeners than I thought about myself. But yes, I guess, before we get started, we've already got someone in the chat. Toronto Dave here, fellow Canadian.
Oh, one of my favorites.
Yeah, Dave's awesome. He's constantly supporting, so super appreciative of everything Dave brings. And yeah, seems like he's happy to be here. So let's not disappoint. I'm sure that's never the case here. But of course, as always, the Going for Two Live Network is sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. And if if you're watching on video, you can use the QR code. If you are listening on the audio feeds, you can use the promo code GF2. And this code allows you, if you are not yet part of Underdog, when signing up, they will double your initial deposit up to $100. So if you sign up for Underdog using this promo code, put in that max $100, you will have a full $200 to use in your Underdog account. Of course, what can you do on Underdog? Well, we always talk fantasy football drafts, right, Jamie? That's drafting's the best part, and Underdog offers the best ball drafts, and everyone loves.
I'm elbow deep in those best balls.
Yes, of course. I'm sure there's tons of people. I mean, because a lot of their big events are out now. The Best Ball Mania, I believe that's available, and of course the puppies and all sorts of other drafts. So different price points in which you can choose to enter, and yeah, of course, different prizes to win as a result of all that. And of course, they also have pick'ems for different sports. You can, NHL, NBA. We've got the elimination games in the NBA Finals and Stanley Cup Finals in the next 2 nights. So there's potential props, either game totals or player totals there that you can pick. Man, imagine picking a Canadian to win the Canadian Open if you're playing golf DFS and got Nick Taylor on that 72-foot eagle putt. That was insane. I don't know if you watch golf at all, but
yeah. I've been trying to get more in DFS PGA as well, just because it's it makes makes watching the sport even more enjoyable. But yeah, I did see that on the highlights.
That's one of the most ridiculous putts I've ever seen in my life. Not that I was actually there, but I was in the same country, just not in the same city.
Yeah.
Jamie's here, but Dave's shouting out Canadians: Nick Taylor, Jamal Murray. Yeah. Hopefully it's a great couple days for Canadians.
Maybe tonight. That's right.
Yeah, we'll see. And we'll certainly see as we get to that. But yeah, I guess before we get to you, Jamie, I want to put one last promo in. Going for Two does personal league podcasts. If you go to goingfor2.com, actually also plugging goingfor2.com, you should check that out. But the section specifically, the PLP section, personal league podcasts, and we're actually going to have an example of that coming this Friday on the 16th, I believe around 9 p.m. We'll be going live, so anyone who isn't involved in this league can check it out. But what we do is we charge a fee, and for members of that league, it's usually around $100 for the whole league. So usually for a 12-person league, it's less than $10. And what we do is we'll go through every single team. We'll have access to the rosters, and then we'll rank them as a consensus. But more importantly than ranking them is we'll go through each team and talk about actionable things that those teams can do. What we would do is sort of team building or moves to make. Sometimes it's big trades. Sometimes it's as simple as maybe you should cut these players to make room for other available players and just letting people kind of prioritize and kind of approach with a fresh set of eyes. And we have some great discussions with that. So if you would like to have your league involved in a PLP, again, go to goingfor2.com/PLP and there's a sign up form there, and that'll get you in touch with Jeff Lambert to organize that. And we'll do a live show at some point on the Going for Two Live network during the off season with talking about your league. So again, goingfor2.com/PLP.
Nice. Awesome.
I suppose, yeah, I did know that Canadian Open's in Toronto. So, Dave's saying it's about 10 minutes from him. So I don't know. Could you hear the roars of the crowd, not just on TV, but in real life? Jamie. I love Jamie. Jamie's always here to support.
Another good dude.
I'm the biggest putts you'll ever see in your life. Yeah. I don't know if you're a 72-foot putt like that one. But yeah, for sure. But anyway, Jamie. So we talked about Jamie in the chat, Jamie Frog, who's on the Fantasy Cheat Sheet, just plugging some other Going for Two live shows. But tonight's all about Jamie Calandro. So, of course, we love sports at Going for Two. So, Jamie, we always start there. What were your first sports memories?
So, first overall, I mean, I'm not a Met fan, but the first sports memory I do have is the Mets winning the '86 World Series. That's the first thing I remember seeing on TV. First real meaningful ones were pretty much the year after that when my dad started taking me to Yankee games. You know, this was before you could, it didn't cost like a couple of car payments to go to a baseball game. You know, we could go to 6-8 games a year. So I really fell in love with the Yankees, and then he got me into all the sports. So, and then if you get to football, when I was 10 was when the Giants won the Super Bowl with the wide right kick from Scott Norwood. So that's my first big football memory and the first launch into my lifelong Giant fandom.
Okay, so yeah, that's a giant fandom and a giant story. I guess it's a giant moment, really, in all of sports. It impacted so much of New York, in particular, with two New York teams. But
yeah,
I guess when did you make the evolution from just watching sports to participating in terms of fantasy sports?
Fantasy sports, I started playing in 1996. When I was 16, and that was fantasy football. I started to kind of read about it and I got a hold of some of those early magazines, and I thought it would be fun to do. So I guess I don't remember how I even got into this league, but it was a bunch of adults that my dad knew that were big bettors, and I was into football and into stats. So I tried it out in 1996, and I still remember Terrell Davis being my first ever draft pick.
I guess that's a pretty good guy to have.
He had a good year that year. I did not win the league, but he was worth the first round pick. I was trying to remember when I actually picked, like what point in the draft I would actually get him, but I can't remember that.
Okay, yeah, but still worthwhile to have. I mean, I guess 96, that wouldn't have been his 2,000-yard season. That came a couple years later, I think.
No, that wasn't his 2,000-yard season.
But yeah,
it was 1,300, 1,400, something like that. It was a good year though. Double-digit touchdowns. I remember that too.
All right. Oh yeah, that's what you want, right?
Yeah.
And then I guess that got you that scratched the itch of the competitiveness, and seems like you've been playing fantasy ever since.
Oh yeah, yes, very much so. In baseball and football, both, since I did baseball the following year. Been doing those, and then DFS came along about 10 or 12 years ago, and that's kind of been life-changing as far as the money aspect has been.
I suspect we may be talking about DFS again later, but we'll find out. No spoilers here. But I guess my next question, and kind of bridges together the theme of this season again, is with teaching. And I invited a bunch of different teachers on throughout this off season. So glad to have you on to talk teaching music specifically. But when did you get that first inclination that you wanted to teach?
Not when you would think. I didn't go to school for education. I went to school. I wanted to be in sports broadcasting. So I went to Marist College in Poughkeepsie, New York, and I went there for communications and journalism. journalism and broadcasting were kind of a double thing. So, I did that. I did the full 4 years of that, and I did it as a music minor because I was always a big time musician in high school. That's kind of the one thing that I've have a gift in. So, I was always enjoying, playing and learning about music and everything. So, and then I minored in music in college. I got a scholarship. So I went there for communications, got a job in radio for a while, and then kind of bounced around there. And then when I was like 21, 22 years old, after I'd already graduated, I started thinking back about my summer jobs were always giving piano and guitar lessons to like younger students that I went to school with. And I enjoyed that. So, I wasn't certified. So I started sending out resumes to all the Catholic schools on Long Island because you didn't have to be certified initially to teach there. And I wound up getting a job and 21 years later and many different certifications plus going back to school for education, that was the right call for sure to pursue that line.
It comes at different ages, and there's never one uniform moment where it has to come. I guess so. Shout out to all the teachers, whether you've wanted to do it your entire life, or you doing it a second or even third career. The dedication is definitely noticed and important to have. And then a shout out to Dave, who's shouting out Dave Wright, and Toronto Dave shouting out Dave Wright and Jose Reyes.
Why are we shouting out Mets, Dave?
You see, I was thinking, okay, so Dave Wright is a baseball player. I was thinking it's Dave Wright, like FF Spaceman. But yeah,
no. This is late '90s, early 2000 Mets talk here. Shout out teacher too. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. Appreciate that. So I guess we can backtrack a little bit, and you're talking about always loving music, and I think everyone's kind of loved to listen to music at any point in their life, and everyone can, sing, whether they sing like you sing like me, not so well, or you have a good voice, or just even dance or clap in any rhythm. That those musical tendencies are kind of there for everyone. But when did you first, I guess, learn an instrument?
Well, I learned bass guitar was my first instrument. I learned that in 6th grade, and I learned it fast. So I kind of realized then that this might be kind of the thing that I can latch onto as my thing. I liked doing a lot of stuff, but it was almost like I stood out a little bit on it. So I kind of pursued that, and then realized that it was coming easy to me. So I was learning all sorts of musical genres fast, and I was able to play along with a lot of my rock albums. So that was what I did a lot, in high school. If I was home after the bass, I picked up the guitar, and all I would really do was just put my cassettes and then CDs on, and play along with them. As Eagles and Allman Brothers and Lynyrd Skynyrd and some of the old classic rock stuff, and just learn and I'd be up there for hours on end, just doing that.
Awesome. Yeah. So some good early influences there. A lot of like, it's funny because you're from New York and you live in Maine, but there's a lot of like Southern rock influence.
I mentioned this, a lot of Southern rock stuff there too. Yeah, no, I always wound up listening to a lot of that Southern rock stylings. I like the guitar in them.
Yeah, so I guess Dave's reference was to your first sport memory, and I guess it's funny because like psychologically, like when you give a big list of things, usually the first and last things are what people will remember, and so the first thing you mentioned was Mets, and that's what Dave picked up on.
Yeah, 86 World Series. That was definitely the first thing I remember seeing. Not a Met fan though. That's okay, Dave.
So now it's shout out to Giambi and
much
Posada.
Better. Yep.
I actually have no idea who that is.
Much the catcher, Yankees catcher, great Yankees catcher.
Oh, okay, that didn't catch me for some reason. I guess so. So how long have you been teaching for now?
About to wrap up my 21st year as a teacher.
Oh, congrats! And I guess in that time, and now all this time playing fantasy football in the fantasy football community, can you draw parallels between your experiences in both?
Well, I mean, a couple of funny things with that. You guys have seen that I do some of these ridiculous parodies for Scott Fishbowl. That I have like 7 or 8 more written for this upcoming one that I just haven't released yet because of the thing with my father passing the last couple of weeks. But Thank you very much. And you were quick to do that online too, which I appreciated. So I had a bunch written, but that's kind of just a way, I mean, it was something I found. It was the Scott Fish Bowl is so amazing, and everyone's kind of really eager to help out as much as they could be. But I kind of felt that that was kind of a unique way that I could help and bring exposure to it. And I always, I put this in some of the posts, but some people don't, actually know that I do, like, as many as I do get written and released on Twitter before, before the Scott Fish Bowl actually begins, is I make a donation to Fantasy Cares based on that. So the more I can get out there, the higher the donation will be. So that's been a nice way to kind of, be a little bit unique with what I can do. And also, help as much as I possibly can while people are helping. And the other cool thing you mentioned with teaching is, my school the last couple of years has been doing this thing called Yes Week. That the last week of school, Yes, is an acronym for year-end studies, and basically it's when classes end, students can kind of just pick almost like a hobby or an enrichment based thing, and they just do a week of it, and it's all day. Some of them are half days. But teachers get to do stuff like there's hiking and there's crafts and there's things like that. And the last 2 years I've been doing fantasy football 101, and it's been a lot of fun, because a lot of the students do play, but they get to learn and they get to see, and they get to watch some of my football diehard shows on YouTube, and they learn a lot about it. And we've been having a blast. We had a mock auction today, so that's been a lot of fun as well.
You picked up my ears with a lot of great words. You said auction draft. I love auction drafts. When you were,
Oh, I love
oh
them.
yeah, that's great. Yeah, I'm starting to think it is like really. I mean, I've always thought it's the funnest way to draft, but I really do think objectively it is the best way to draft as well.
Me too. I mean, there's such a different dynamic to it, with the money management and everything, and you have the chance of getting whatever players you want, if you can budget it well and to kind of track everybody's. It was so much fun. It's all I do for baseball now. I do both for football, but I don't do Snake for baseball anymore, except for the TGFBI, the charity one for that.
Yeah, well, of course, we'll always make exceptions for charity leagues.
Yep.
As you mentioned, always wanted to give back. It's just funny because when you mentioned Yes Week, I got really excited. Like, oh, is it all about like the band Yes? Like they're just gonna play their music all week? Yeah, everyone gets into prog rock.
I'd be into that too.
But yeah, so because I know it's funny you mentioned. I guess I'll share a bit about myself about the similarities. You said it was grade 6 learning the bass. I learned the bass guitar in grade 9. High school music class.
Nice.
And yeah, that was because at the time I was bands like Green Day for me was kind of a big band at that point, and I really like their bass player because he does a lot of really cool melodic things. And I guess before then, just listening to music, seeing rock bands, and not really distinguishing like what's the bass guitar and what's the I guess we'll say typical 6-string guitars, although enough metal bands aren't using just 6 strings, but
I know.
tenor guitar, I guess it's technically called.
Yep.
But yeah, I didn't really understand the distinction of what those were or even what the sounds were. But then I guess getting right around that high school age, I started to understand what that was and what the differences were, and kind of realizing those low frequencies, those cool bass lines. I really started to dig that. So started like you on the bass guitar. So a couple similarities between us.
Awesome. That's a good place to start too. You branch out from it really quickly because you mentioned you play guitar as well. So that's great.
Yeah, for sure. And then just I found it helped me because I feel like I've always been really strong rhythmically. I could tap on time and I don't know if it was because the first sport I ever played was figure skating. Or the first sport I ever participated in. And it's as a way I did it for like 1 or 2 years just to learn how to skate before I could play hockey. But I guess just that like the ice dancing, the rhythm of it, I guess I got pretty naturally. So I've always been good at rhythm, and bass is good for, okay, you could figure out the rhythms pretty easily and then learn the finger dexterity from there. And then I found that helped me learning chording on guitar and other things.
Is that a thing? Is that like a thing for a lot in Canada? The figure skating is the thing that more people go through than
I don't think
like
so.
In other countries?
I think that was just my parents kind of insisted on it before I got into hockey, having the stick and having all that. They felt it'd be safer if I learned how to skate first. So, because I remember I was the only boy.
Gotcha.
It was me and like 5 or 6 other girls in our class and for our performance. So I don't think any of my hockey teammates that I eventually had ever did ice dancing. So No, I would say no.
That's cool though. I never really thought of that.
I do wonder if that is something like, would hockey players benefit from that if they, for those that maybe don't skate as well, like a program like that to help them. Um, okay, maybe it is a little more normal than I thought, because apparently Toronto Dave's parents almost put him in speed
Yeah.
skating. So I guess still anything with
Yeah,
skates
yeah.
in Canada is fairly common, I suppose.
Yeah. No, interesting. I always thought it was just, hockey or nothing there, but that's interesting to know.
Yeah, I could be a weird guy though. uh, al-
No, it's cool though.
Almost might be a stretch. I considered it. Yeah. You quickly got to the idea that you quickly skated away from the idea, Dave. We'll go with that. Um, so I guess, well, yeah. So I suppose my one question that wasn't necessarily pre-planned, but just kind of about you and like what you've done teaching music. Because I know for myself, when I've taught music at the high school level, it's been mostly from a rock band standpoint. Like one year, some of the students, it was a grade 12 class, so I got them to learn saxophone as well. But for the most part, it's been, you know, guitar, bass, piano, drums, like most those four main instruments, and learning from there. But what has your teaching experience like been in music?
Well, as far as playing goes, those are my four main ones too, the rhythm instruments. But I mean, my days, I'm the instrumental, like I'm the symphonic band director and I'm the jazz band director, and I've been doing that. I've directed choir for many years as well. So it's really, I mean, the performing ensembles is like where I'm centered around. And I do teach. We have a piano class and we have a guitar and rock history class that I teach as well, and plus music theory. But the ensemble based stuff is where, like, I would think, my if I had to keep one and get rid of the others, it would be that.
Okay, and I know what other weird distinction for me. I guess it's not so weird because I teach French schools, so it's also been, I found it's a good vehicle to just not only teach these kids about music, but teach these kids about French Canadian music from Quebec
Hmm.
or other like Franco-Ontarian artists. So I found that's like a great vehicle to just be able to show them. And I guess what you're saying with the rock history is also a way to the things you like and the bands you appreciated, those Leonard Skinner and the Eagles. It's your way to showcase that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we go basically, it's a timeline from the 40s to present day, and usually, whatever they're learning to play will go hand in hand with the decades that we're into. So it's kind of a good way to understand it as well as learn to play it a little bit.
Okay, Dave's been listening to enough of my puns to come up with maybe the best one. This interview
Love
is
it.
music to my ears, and yeah, this that comment is music to my eyes. Ow, sorry, got a quarter note in the eye. So Facebook users here saying hello everyone from Facebook. I'm gonna guess this is Jay, who one of the co-hosts on the 2 Point Conversion, because press coverage isn't every week here. Like for instance, my next episode of press coverage which should be scheduled for the 26th. So next Monday, the 19th, Jay and Gladys will have the 2 Point Conversion. Now this might not be Jay, but I know Jay does come along and support a lot of these shows. So I'm gonna go on that guess. For now, though, we'll call him Facebook user, such as like Jamie has done. But yeah, we'll find out maybe later if that is Jay. So I guess the next question to ask: who have been the biggest influences in your life so far?
Um, well, that depends, I guess, which part we're coming from. I mean, my in life itself has been my dad from the start. So he gets the most credit for me for everything. My mother too, I shouldn't say, just my dad. Both my parents were very supportive, and I had a great childhood and everything. But my dad and I always had a big time connection with, not only just learning about life but sports and music as well. And my music teachers is where a lot of the credit lies to. They instilled my love of music. um and then in fantasy, I just getting me into this. I always go back to kind of where I learned, when I'm the beginning of the DFS days, when I was started on Draft Street. I don't know if you remember Draft Street.
I don't think I ever played on
um
that. No, I don't actually. Interesting.
I think it wound up becoming DraftKings eventually. I think they got bought out by that. But Draft Street was a site that was the one when I started playing DFS like 10, 12 years ago. And, you know, I was losing my shirt depositing because it looked so easy. And I was just losing like 10, 20
So
bucks at a
you
time
helped
every
them
night.
become DraftKings then, maybe.
Yeah, right. I contributed a great deal. But you know, I was kind of like looking for people to help, and I found I always give them a shout out. You know, Drew Dinkmeyer and Mike Leone, who are a bunch of bounced away a bunch of places. They were established. They're on Establish the Run now, but they, you know, they kind of, I learned the math playbook from them, and I learned like, you know, not only how to do it properly, but like what numbers to study. And then as I did that, I learned how much I liked writing it and how much I liked analyzing it, and I wanted to do that too. So you know, they kind of gave me the itch to get into this industry and actually be one of the on the analyzing side of things.
And I think part of the reason I asked this question, influences plural, is exactly for what you're saying. Like you had different spheres of your life where you had people be influence or people be influences for you. So I also, with these questions, I do try to, you know, I'm asking for specific information, but try to keep it at least vague to kind of let the whoever I'm interviewing decide how they want to answer it. I try not to straight lead the witness. I think they say. I don't know. I'm not a legal guy, so I guess I legally can't say that. Oh, okay. So Facebook user is Jamie. It's a big mystery. Jamie is just messing with us, apparently. So yeah. Hey, you know what? More views. We'll take it. It's awesome. It's fine.
Yeah.
But yes, as you can see, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're even on Twitch. I know some people might see this on Twitter as well. I guess I should have said this earlier in the episode, but if you are on Twitter and you make Twitter comments, those won't show up in this feed though. So unfortunately, if you want to comment and interact with us, suggest you head over to the Going for Two Live channel on YouTube, and from there you can interact just as Jamie and Dave are doing. All right, so I know, I mean, music and fantasy football are two of the like funnest things ever. So it's you know, you could spend all your time on that, and it'd be great and perfectly content. But do you have any other hobbies outside of those two spheres?
Those are the big ones for sure. The other one would be retro video gaming. You know, I'm a big like NES and SNES fan. I got all sorts of books and posters and you know, all the classic games that I grew up with are down here in the basement. Got a real fun thing going. I'm running this coming weekend. I'm hosting a retro NES game draft. I put a little promo on Twitter, and I got four users that won slots in that, and so we're gonna have a little like 10-round draft of classic NES games, and I'm gonna put on Twitter after the 4 10-game libraries, and who Twitter votes as the best one will get an entry into the Scott Fish Bowl this year. They were kind enough to give me an entry to give away and do it that way.
Oh, shout out to Scott Fish. Yeah, this is the time of year where it'll be mentioned on every episode. So
right.
I mean, who knows?
Right.
I mean, I know last year it seemed like, and last couple of years, it seems like Scott Fish himself was just taking a tour on all the different platforms. Anyone who's had a giveaway, he would just randomly pop in and show up. So we don't have a giveaway, so I don't know if I'm not expecting Scott to just randomly pop up, but you never know. Apparently, he's
never know.
All right, so we've done a lot to reveal about ourselves. I think I've shared more than I try and share a little bit every episode. So eventually, if you watch the whole series, you'll get to know me pretty well. But yeah, you've done a good job sharing. But is there anything that the fantasy community doesn't know about you, Jamie?
I always save that question. You don't go volunteering it around because then it just sounds like I'm bragging. But my big thing in life is that I opened for Tom Petty.
Ooh.
And that's you know, not something that I broadcast because I don't want to seem braggy, but it's always a good answer to that question. Yeah, when I was 19, my the band I was in on Long Island won almost the same kind of thing, like, you know, played concerts in the park, and there was votes in the local paper to who was the best one, and we wound up winning. So we got to open for Tom Petty for a concert, and got to meet him and see the concert from the front row afterwards.
Wow, that's amazing. Awesome. Congrats.
Yeah, that was a cool one. Thank you. Yeah, it was a cool experience.
Yeah, you mentioned that's I guess before the show started that what is the name of your former band in New York?
That band, the name of that band was Shockshine.
Shockshine.
But they moved away to Jamaica, and I went on to college. They became a reggae. They got into reggae and moved away to Jamaica to pursue reggae, and I, of course, did not. So, you know, that was a one summer thing that we got good in there, and then I kind of moved on and went to college, and music went a different path for me.
And I think I know American geography. You said Maine, right? Is where you live now?
Yep. Moved to Maine 8
So
years
Maine
ago.
is north of New York, right? I'm not making that up.
It is.
So it's funny how you went one
Correct.
direction, they went the other,
They
down
went,
south.
yeah, polar opposites too. Yeah.
Yeah, I do agree with David. That's amazing. And I guess I wonder if
Thank you.
like when they went and became a reggae band, did they call like their first album Shock Steady or something?
I never heard from them again. They were weird dudes.
Oh, okay.
I didn't expect to ever hear from them again after they went there. They kind of just decided on a whim, like, we're going to Jamaica. Come with us if you want. I know. Sorry, thanks.
Well, yeah, I guess
Yep.
it was a shock.
Yes.
All right, I think we've heard enough of those puns, Kyle. I don't want to get the cane pulled
Never.
and thrown off
Never.
stage.
There's never enough puns.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I guess we can get to the more fantasy football centric portion of the episode. So, and I guess I hinted at this earlier, and I don't know. I always take a guess at whom, what specific people might answer to this. But what is your preferred? Actually, I want to leave this even more vague. What is your preferred fantasy format? I should say.
Twitter is gonna, tar and feather me for this, I think, but I like redraft better than any kind of dynasty or keeper. I play them all, but I keep those at a minimum. I like the idea of a new team every year. I like the idea of like all the different coaching changes and the different personnel changes affecting drafts from year to year. And I like the draft. It's the draft is the most fun part of fantasy, and you get everybody again. It's like a startup every time. So, yeah, if I had to keep one, it would be redraft over the
And
dynasty.
I normally, I mean, the question on the page is league format, and then I just realized, okay, maybe if I say fantasy format, that could include DFS as well, in case you wanted to answer as that. But
Oh well, then that, then that for
yeah,
sure.
I
Yeah,
guess that's
I
my again. I try to keep the questions vague. I didn't keep that one vague enough though, so I still have some
yeah,
learning to do.
it's just- yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, no. DFS is definitely my thing. That's all my content creation is DFS as well, on the web too. So yeah, so definitely DFS.
I mean, it's not that you're drafting, but picking a lineup in a sense is still making decisions like we would in a draft. So it's still the same type of fun every week instead of just once a year, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and football is so dynamic. It's so much fun. To pick the teams and have these different lineups with stacks and everything, and then watch the red zone and see it kind of all and all the scores going on. There's nothing better, really.
All right. So yes, I think we've had a couple people answer redraft as well, so you wouldn't be alone in that. I guess I haven't really given him the opportunity to answer DFS. I do wonder if people would how many would have answered that if given the opportunity. But yeah, I that's what I had expected your answer to be honest.
Oh yes, I should have been. I've seen polls on the other stuff. I think I'm in the minority on redraft versus
I will say
dynasty.
though, sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes I expect someone to. Okay, I'm sure this is gonna be your format. Oh, it's not. They actually prefer a redraft
Yeah.
or just a typical dynasty. So I guess we'll talk more about the leagues themselves. So we'll stay away from
Mhm.
DFS unless there's a DFS rule that you really like that specific platforms have that others don't. But the question is, what's one rule in fantasy that you feel you have to have in every league?
Um, for me, it's going in without a plan, or at least not going in without a plan. You always got to go in with a plan, but being able to deviate from that plan and quickly. I think that's whenever I get questions on Twitter about stuff like that, I'm saying like I'm thinking I'm picking ninth. I'm thinking I should go wide receiver, wide receiver. What do you think? Like, it's just you can't predict the draft. It's you got to be able to adapt and build best players available. If there's a wide receiver run in front of you, like stick to your plan, like what you're doing there. Like don't zag after everybody else has zigged. Let the draft come to you. And I've found that to be the one that I stick to like throughout all formats. And I'll say, it kind of applies to DFS too. Like there'll be a player that you really want, but you gotta and if you build a lineup on Tuesday that looks great, you gotta be able to erase it, based on injury reports or weather or whatever. So like you gotta be flexible. I think flexibility, is the one rule that I try to stick to, which is kind of ironic to say flexibility is a rule.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think from a strategy standpoint, that if the strategy is to be flexible, it can kind of work in any context. You just have to apply the specific context of, okay, who are the players going in this round? If you're going to plan out beforehand, you could maybe plan out your first pick. Okay, I'm picking ninth. What are the 9 players that I would take where like that 9th player is the worst case scenario? Like that's maybe about as much planning beforehand as you can afford.
Mm-hmm.
Like even saying I'm going to go wide receiver. What if a really good running back or Travis Kelce somehow falls to that second round and you have a chance to take him there?
Right.
Just so things like that where you shouldn't always, like you said, box yourself in, give yourself flexibility to draft as the draft's coming. I mean, if we love drafting during the draft, don't do all the drafting before the draft. And you take
right. Yeah, right. Of course.
Actually, so Jamie likes flexibility. Jamie Prerog in the comments, got to have a backup plan to your backup plan just in case things don't fall your way. Now, one of the people I play music with, his name is Patrick Pilla. He's on Twitter at PA_II official. He's a fantastic singer, probably even better producer though. He produces all the albums that we create together. I've got a recording studio here in Sudbury, and he always says that he would be the opposite, that you never need a backup plan because your first plan should have so much flexibility that like if something goes wrong, not exactly according to plan, you can still shift and pivot off it to where your plan A is still can get you to your goal. So however you visualize the need for flexibility, whether that's specific plans to backup plans or your first plan, you just have to be able to be flexible with it. But I think that's kind of important, not just in fantasy, but throughout life.
Of course. Yeah. I followed him on Twitter too.
So I guess the next question, I guess the last fantasy question, your all-time favorite QB1, RB1, wide receiver 1, and tight end 1.
So this was a tough one. The QB1, I wanted to be, with this answer, I wanted to be like, show how long I've been doing it for, like, back in 1998, I remember. But I mean, the ones that stick out the most for me here is, 2019 Lamar Jackson, with that incredible year he had. I'm a sucker for rushing quarterbacks, so that one stuck out to me a lot. That like a third of his points that year came on the ground. Running back is easy for me. That's the Tomlinson year with the 28 touchdowns. I had him in my biggest money league that year, and I won that. So that's a good memory for fantasy for me. Again, recent, like Cooper Kupp last year for wide receiver. I was thinking back to like one of the best Jerry Rice years, and he had an amazing year, like over 20 touchdowns, but he didn't have Cooper Kupp like almost 150 catches. And now that PPR is such like the standard now, I go with him for wide receiver. And then the Gronk, Gronk 5-6 years ago, whatever year that was, with his with that massive one he had. So I think those would be my 4.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it does kind of, span certain time eras too. So, wasn't just
not as much as I wanted it to.
you didn't just say Mahomes, McCaffrey, Kupp, and Kelce, right? Like who were the tight end one last year? Who's the wide receiver one last year? So
yeah. Was
well, I think
why is it blanking? Why am I blanking?
I think it was Jefferson in total points, but I believe Cooper Kupp still had more points per game. So it depends on how you want to view that in that scope. Give a bit of flexibility on what you choose as your wide receiver.
Yeah.
So wow, I guess we this definitely wasn't a Largo tempo. Like we went through this pretty quick. I would say it's certainly not prestissimo. We didn't rush anything, but
prestissimo. Not no.
But going at a good pace. But yeah, we
just presto.
We get to the look. Actually, I'll put up Jamie's comment first before we get to the next section. Have you ever seen the video of drunk Gronk smashing the Lego Steve Harvey's head on New Year's Eve? Yes, I have seen that actually.
I haven't, and I'm gonna 2 minutes after this interview ends.
And someone made a big Steve Harvey logo, and Steve Harvey was right there, and I guess Gronk smashed it, and the look on Steve Harvey's face. He might be a really good actor, but it made it look like that wasn't planned. That was just Gronk pulling an audible.
So much to unpack there. No, I haven't seen that. I gotta look that up.
All right, so I would suggest everyone to go watch that, but not after this though. We got the really high point of the show here, the high five section. So we're going to talk about your top 5s from 5 different categories. Oh yeah, you see, that's what I thought. Like he was like Steve Harvey. Yeah, I wasn't gonna say pissed, but yeah, apparently that's what Jamie was saying. It was yeah, Gronk being Gronk, Gronk smash, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what he does best. Smashing for fantasy, smashing Steve Harvey face, Lego face. Anyway,
I don't know why. I've never even heard of that.
yeah, I remember that made the rounds on Twitter. That video of whatever New Year's Eve celebration it was. I don't even remember what year it would have been. But yeah, I'm sure that's pretty probably readily. That's probably a quick Google search. Gronk, Lego,
Oh
Steve
yeah.
Harvey. That probably finds it almost immediately. The YouTube algorithm.
Doug, I'm ready to go.
But yes, so the high five sections, like I mentioned, your top five, Jamie, from 5 different categories. And since we've talked about sports and football, and fantasy, we'll transition right to top 5 game day foods. And I guess you mentioned watching Red Zone. So what do you eat? What are you watching, or what are you eating while watching Red Zone?
Well, I mean, this is going to be kind of an answer of 20-year-old me is going to answer for me here, because I now have the stomach of like an 80-year-old that can't handle anything more than like toast at game days now. But no, there's some. I'm a big fan of dips, and my wife is a big dip maker. So I mean, buffalo chicken dip, that's tried and true. She makes a really good thing called a Reuben dip, which is all the elements of a Reuben in a dip: corned beef and sauerkraut and Swiss and Thousand Island mixed together. I love that when she makes that. A corn chowder dip. Um, I always like sandwiches. I'm good. I'm fine with a good sandwich and wings. But I was a pansy with spice before I had stomach issues, so now it's like the milder the better for wings here. But you can't go wrong with a good bucket of wings.
Yeah, for sure. We have a great place here in Sudbury called Doghouse, and they make wings that are. It's not too spicy, so I don't know if you would enjoy this, but it's coated in maple sauce, and then they put bacon bits on it.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, those are my favorite flavor of wings, and again,
Oh my
like
god.
it's a good, like, the meat quality is pretty good for all the other wing places I've tried here in Sudbury. So I don't know if Toronto Dave's ever tried anything maple bacon wings. I don't know if that's just a Sudbury thing or if that's a Canada wide thing, but that's probably my favorite flavor of wings I've ever had.
Oh my god, that's genius.
Yeah, yeah, I love bacon. So yeah, just give me bacon and wings. I don't have to choose. And yeah, Canadian. I like maple syrup on a lot. I guess so. Next question is
Right.
your top 5 books.
I'm a big reader, but I'm definitely like a linear reader. It's so I mean, I love the Harry Potter series. I always have. I'll still read them. I read a lot of Patterson, James Patterson. The Alex Cross series. I like horror stuff. So Stephen
Mhm.
King's It. It is one of my favorite books. I like what's the other one by him that's really good? I can't remember the name of it.
I've Dark Tower is good. I've read Cell as well.
Cell, yeah, that's the one I was trying to think of. I loved that one. I liked his is The Mist, which turned into a good movie. And I always liked the Da Vinci Code too. I thought that was a really good book.
Yeah, I like.
Very, very
I've
interesting.
liked it. Some of Dan Brown's stuff. His Digital Fortress is another one he wrote.
I've never read anything of his other than the whatever the guy's name is that the series, the Da
Yeah,
Vinci Code, continues on
Inferno, and
with.
yeah,
Yeah, right. I should, because I like his writing.
yeah. I found that one quite interesting, and talking all about. It's funny. The Da Vinci Code's about the secret codes and stuff. This is more on the face, literal digital codes, and CIA and espionage, and
Oh,
yeah,
cool,
yeah. I thought
cool,
it was
cool.
such a great read. It's also, I believe it's his first novel, so it's a little shorter than his other one. So it's a quick read too.
Oh, okay, yeah, that works. That works. I like to blow through a lot.
It's funny how he went, like, it's super kind of almost technical, not quite futuristic, but then it's very
Mhm.
modern, and then it feels like his future books kind of almost play back to the past more, and talk about the older codes. So it's funny how he's shifted from our time to pay more homage to the past the further he goes along. So apparently, dog. I mean, I suppose this makes sense for Cleveland, right? The Dog Pound, the Browns. There's a dog house place, but it's like a Cleveland Browns burgers and hot dog restaurant. It's no
Oh, cool.
wings. And apparently Harry Potter is pulling, I guess, what Lord of the Rings just did on Amazon, but making a TV series based on the books. So
I saw that on HBO or whatever HBO is called now, or the streaming HBO thing, whatever that's called now. I saw that was coming.
Interesting. All right, I had not seen that. So breaking news. So thanks Jamie for Jamie for informing me on that. So yeah, I guess now we get to the you being a music teacher, I decided we'll put 3 music questions in here. So first off, we'll go with the traditional one. I asked this on, I think, of every guest, but who are your top 5 artists or bands? And I guess we'll see if it's some of the same ones you mentioned earlier in the episode.
Yeah, it definitely is. I love the Eagles, always have. I always like the Southern rock roots, like Leonard Skinner and the Allman Brothers. After that, I kind of, I got really into the harder rock stuff as I grew up in high school. So, I listened to a lot of Metallica. Metallica is a big one of mine. I like their new album a lot, so I'm glad that they continue to span. And AC/DC, the big knock on them is that a lot of their stuff sounds the same, but I just like how it's put together. So I got, playlists and playlists of AC/DC music.
And I mean, yeah, if we could go to the music theory of AC/DC being, very, there are a lot of the similar chord structures to almost every song, but I find, especially, I guess, Angus more than anyone, the riffs they make are so catchy and very melodic. For as simple as they are, it's the appeal is certainly there because of how catchy the melodies of the guitar riffs are.
Yep. Yeah. And I always like the solos.
Yeah.
As well,
for sure. And I mean, he's a pretty no frills, like doesn't really put any guitar effects on. Just give me a Marshall stack, Gibson SG, and that's it. Like let's get that pure tone.
Yeah, of course.
It's interesting that you mentioned the Eagles. I'll go back to again my music partner is Patrick Pilla. He's from Nigeria originally, so Afro beats and a lot of Caribbean music as well are his main influences. A lot of R&B and soul as well from America as the Americans influence. Not huge into rock, and I've kind of showed him a lot of rock bands. The one that he is just like super gravitated to immediately was the Eagles, and I think it's because he grew up singing in choirs in church, and so he's always been a huge just vocal, both solo vocal but vocal harmony person as well, and that's such a huge importance for him. And the Eagles are one of the best at that from a vocal harmony standpoint from a rock band.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right, so now we'll dive into more specific things you like. So we talked about the bands that you love so much. What are your top 5 music recordings?
Well, I'll go back to the Eagles again. Their Hell Freezes Over album I had on CD.
The live one.
Like their reunion. Yep. Their kind of live reunion thing. Said they're never getting back together until Hell Freezes Over. And then they made that album. I like live albums. So my answer to this is probably going to be a lot of them. I like the Allman Brothers at the Fillmore East concerts, Leonard Skinner live at the Fox Theater, Motley Crue live in Toronto. I don't know if you guys were near that at all, but there's a live album of them in Toronto that is incredible.
I have not seen Motley Crue live, so I wasn't there. I know that. We'll find out if Dave was.
Oh, yeah. And I do not remember my 5th one. I'm thinking fast here. I'll say Metallica, the Black Album.
Okay.
Classic.
And again, leave the question vague. I didn't say, okay, does he want, would it be better to say songs or albums? And I tend to be an album guy, so my initial instinct is, what are your top 5 favorite albums? But maybe, okay, I'll leave it to your interpretation. You chose 5 albums, so I guess
I miss albums. I mean, the streaming, the Spotify stuff is fun, and you can kind of pick and choose. But I miss albums. I miss buying CDs from like the Wall, which was the local music store around.
Yeah, I guess he's wondering about Iron Maiden. You just mentioned a lot of like heavier bands at the time.
Oh, I love Iron Maiden.
Again, you started on bass, so yeah, Steve Harris, I'm sure, is a huge influence. Yeah, I mean, he's influenced so many people. That gallop bass style is it's fun and it's unique, but it can also powerful as well.
Very.
All right, and now top 5 concerts or performances. And I also did kind of leave this vague almost intentionally because I'm curious to see how you're going to approach this one too.
I've been to a lot of live shows, so I took it that way. So the Foo Fighters at the Hammerstein Ballroom. I saw. My hearing in my left ear has never been the same after that show, but that they were absolutely incredible live. I have seen Motley Crue live, not in Toronto, but I have them on this list as well. They were incredible live. I can't remember where it was. I think it was in Boston. I want to say at the TD Garden Center. Um, I've seen Leonard Skinner live, which was a great concert. I saw them in Jones Beach on Long Island. Another one at the Hammerstein Ballroom that always stands out is Robert Plant was for a short time with a band called Strange Sensation, which was an Australian band. I don't know if that's even known by people.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
They had they had one album which I bought after that thing too. But that show was incredibly good. They did a mix of all their original stuff, and also Led Zeppelin songs with like an Aboriginal twist on it. Like they had a didgeridoo in the band. That was one of the most incredible shows I've ever seen. And then the fifth one, I mean, I don't know if it was the best concert from a music standpoint, but I'm going to throw that Tom Petty show that, I was actually a part of in there. Just, being able to know we'd played before him and get to sit in the front row and see him and meet him before and after. So I'll say that's my fifth one.
And the reason I didn't necessarily say concerts you've attended was I did also want to leave in case anything you played that you wanted to add to that. But yeah, I suppose that makes sense with the opening for Tom Petty. Tough to beat that. Yeah. But yes. So sorry, that Robert Plant band, just because I'm curious, I want to go look this up. It's Strange
Sensation.
Strange Sensation. All right. Interesting. Yep. Yeah.
Very good stuff. I don't know if you know there's the song Morning Dew. I don't know who did it originally, but the Grateful Dead, I think, popularized it. They did a version of that, which I like better than any of the other releases of that song too.
Okay. All right. Strange Sensation. I'm gonna. No, I guess that's it's strange that I haven't heard of a Robert Plant thing because everyone. I mean, I'm wearing this is a Scott Fishbowl Led Zeppelin shirt, so.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Yeah, it's fitting. I got a few Scott Fish. These were from when Viridian Global, who does our Going for Two gear as well. They were doing they had a year where they were doing Scott Fishbowl shirts, and it was the year where it was music theme. And so I caught quite a few of those. So it's okay. I know he's a music teacher. I'm gonna wear one of these music shirts. Scott Fishbowl's coming up, and I was like hemming and hawing which one I should go with, and I went with the Zeppelin one. And yeah, I guess I'm glad I did.
I have 3 shirts from that one too, and I planned on wearing one for this as well, and they're all dirty. I was even searching around in the dirty clothes, like down here in the basement, just to throw one on for this, but they're wet in the laundry. Well, they're clean now.
Well, I guess
they were not available.
It shows that you wear them, so they're serving their purpose.
Yes, absolutely.
I guess yeah. Well, just I guess added question bonus at the end, since music was so important. Were you in? I guess that would have been Scott Fishbowl 11 or 10. That was 10.
That was 11. That's when I started. That's when I started doing those music videos too. It was easy because there were so many musical bands and artists that I would do like a parody based on that, tag everybody in that division, and really get, some of them would match the donation and everything too. So yeah, that's been my favorite. That was my favorite Scott Fishbowl, I think.
Yeah, that was cool. I know. Our so what division were you in?
I was in Public Enemy, which is funny because I don't listen to much rap, but I was going to wear the Public Enemy shirt onto this thing too.
Awesome.
Were you in the Led Zeppelin?
No, one? I was in the Incubus division actually.
I did not do an Incubus song.
Yeah, I didn't remember one.
Hard. But they're hard to play.
Oh yeah, no, I mean Mike Enzinger had carpal tunnel syndrome because the songs are so hard to play on guitar, and I think he's realized how to, maybe okay, I don't need to do the full bar chords all the time. I think he's adjusted, and because I had kind of focused on. Because there's so many bands that I loved. And my favorite band all time is Yes, and there wasn't a Yes division. So that would have been like my first instinct, because like I think Steve Howe is just the greatest guitarist ever. So and Chris Squire as a bass player is also pretty spectacular too.
Oh, I love Yes's music.
But yeah, no Yes division. So then it was okay, well, what am I going to go with? And I kind of looked at all the bands that were there, and there's a few I've seen live, and I really focused on those. Incubus, Tool, Yes, or not Yes, Muse. So I kind of eventually decided Incubus. Not exactly sure why. Although it's funny because I had just seen them live, I think 2 years before, and it was on their tour for their album 8. And the 8 slot was available in the Incubus division. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll just take 108.
Oh, that's cool.
That that should be it felt fitting, and that's when I really started to connect with Andrew Hall, and like even like we still have our Twitter group chat from the Incubus division all those a couple of years ago, and Andrew just sent us a message the other day, just to everyone.
Oh,
So we're
nice.
still that group's still going, and we still connect, and anytime we could throw, I love throwing just like Incubus pun names. He was wondering like he had heard Drive on something, the song Drive by Incubus, and he was like, oh, just made me think of you guys and how are you doing, and I just answered Stellar. And that was our thing when we were doing the draft, was just answering everything with as an Incubus a song name as for our answers or for whatever. So then it kept going, and everyone just kept adding gifts. Will Ferrell saying science for the one album oriented rock, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah. And those communities are great for the draft spot chats, and then the group chats for Scott Fishbowl are
Yeah,
fantastic.
absolutely. Actually, I was last year on press coverage. I got the Letterkenny division. Not everyone from the division, but about half the division on, and we just did
Mhm.
I think at that point it was later in July, the draft had finished, so we did talk about our picks and just talked about Letterkenny for a lot of it. But yeah, so yeah, that was super fun, and glad that Scott Fishbowl can provide so many opportunities like it did for you, giving you the chance and the medium to I guess the
Yeah.
inspiration to make all those parody songs.
Yeah, yeah, that was a really fun summer with all that. I mean, I was like, right up my alley.
It's interesting because Get Real with Casey Kasem. It's another show that's very similar to this, one on one. She
Yep,
interviews people,
yep.
and I'm a little behind on my podcast, but I did just get to. I'm not finished the episode yet, but the Zach Reed episode recently, and he does for the Dynasty Dummies all those parodies of those intro songs, and he kind of revealed. And I didn't know this, but like, what was the first one that kind of sparked his interest? And it was Jeremy Hill to the song Beverly Hills by Weezer. So that's kind of what sparked the interest. Do you remember what sparked it for you, like to do these parody songs for each of these Scott Fishbowl divisions? Like, what was the first one that made you, oh yeah, that's an idea?
I did. Yes, I do. It was uh Third Eye Blind. The lyrics just kind of came into my head one day. So it was, how's it gonna be? I did what's his ADP? And I had like a full verse and chorus there, and Mike Clay from commented on it how much he loved it, and then that kind of set off that I wanted to, I mean, it was for definitely for the charity and everything, but I felt I could show off a little bit a little bit too with some of the other ones, so it was a lot of fun writing those things.
Awesome. Yeah. I'll have to go back on Twitter and check it and find them all. Uh,
I had them pinned. I don't think they're pinned anymore. I had them pinned.
oh, well, we'll go back in the history files.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's all available in the interweb somewhere. Uh,
yeah. Yeah, they were fun.
a little bit like here on Going for Two, all of our past episodes are available in our archives. So if you head to Going for Two, or sorry, the Going for Two live channel on YouTube, you can go back in the archives several years and see, I suppose, all the episodes of press coverage, all 3 seasons so far of it. So appreciate everyone for again checking out goingfor2.com. Mention the PLPs again if you want a preview of what a PLP will be like maybe before you purchase. Definitely check out this Friday night. We'll be doing one here on the Going for Two Live Network. And yeah, I know we have a lot of fun. This is I guess we've been doing them as long as the live networks exist, because this is our third year of these PLPs. And like, we've already had one league that's done literally all 3 years. So the fact that they've not just come back once, not twice, but they've come back this year for a third time shows, okay, they clearly feel like it's worth the investment because they keep making the investment. They seem to enjoy it. And we have a lot of fun creating it. And this year we've added, it used to just be like we'd record the audio and send it out to them, but this year we changed the idea of the live show. So they've that particular league's got to experience it like in both formats, and they seem to love having it for the live show, and they could interact with us during, like, in the chat while it's going on live. So again, if you're thinking about potentially purchasing a PLP but aren't sure, I want to see what it's like, we've got an example coming up this Friday on the 16th. Again, I believe it'll be about 9:30 p.m. we'll start. Yeah, there's just want to take this chance to plug all the great stuff on the Going for Two Live Network. I know Jamie is on the Fantasy Cheat Sheet. I believe they're on tomorrow night. I think Speak On It will be on tomorrow night as well. The Armchair Fantasy Show, of course, the flagship show, the show that started this whole network. Jeff Lambert and Ryan Searfoss every Wednesday. Thursday, I'll be co-hosting the Dynasty Gambit. We've got Matthew Russell coming on, one of our Going for Two writers, who I think he joined us during the live draft, but he hasn't come on yet for a regular episode of the Dynasty Gambit. And he's just started ranking as well with us on, we do Going for Two as we're in the Fantasy Pros ranking competition, a few of us, and he's joined along with that. So I think we're going to focus a lot this week on Dynasty rankings. And I know I just updated mine this weekend, kind of for the first time in about a month. So a couple of updates. I've done my early first draft, my touchdown projections for the season. I know for Going for Two, we're probably going to push some projections as well at some point for full projection. So I've kind of just added to all that. So I added Dynasty rankings. So if anyone likes Dynasty rankings, again, check this out on Thursday. I guess if you don't mind me, Jamie, I'll just plug the Underdog sponsor one last time. Again, you can scan the promo code or scan the QR code or use the promo code GF2 when signing up for Underdog Fantasy. And if you do so, they will double your deposit up to $100. Again, use it to play in best ball drafts. The NBA Finals is kicking off in a half hour. So if you sign up right now, you'll have enough time to enter potential props for the NBA Finals tonight. Take the Jamal Murray over if you're a Canadian like me and just think he's going to score 50 tonight. No Canadians ever won the Finals MVP. There's been a few Canadian basketball players that have won championships. Steve Nash has a couple of regular season MVPs, but there's never been of the champions. There's never been one that's been significant enough to win a Finals MVP. This is the best chance we're probably ever going to have. Unless the Nuggets keep coming back, maybe that gives Murray a couple chances. But I don't know. Do you watch much basketball, Jamie?
Oh yeah, I'm a big NBA fan. RJ Barrett's Canadian. Hopefully one day he'll do that for you.
Oh, right, yeah, Knicks fan, I guess. Yeah, it's
yeah,
right. Yeah, RJ Barrett for Finals MVP. Let's go. But yes,
there you go.
Yeah, I think so. Dave and I'll definitely be cheering for the Nuggets tonight. Do you think Murray has a chance at Finals MVP, or is it Jokic is just so good that it's going to be him?
Yeah. No, I mean, like you said, maybe if Miami makes a game of it, and then Murray has like that 50-point game in Game 7 that solidifies it. But yeah, no, I don't think it's him right now.
Because I mean, he had a triple-double the other night, a 30-point triple-double, but Jokic is like, well, I have a 30-point triple-double with 20 rebounds. So yeah,
and tennis. Yeah.
So as good as Murray can put up a game, it seems like it's probably going to be Jokic. It would take like a 50-point performance at least, and he might be his only chance tonight to do it. So yeah. Oh, and I think a lot of these guys are from Toronto itself. So I don't know if Dave's ever met any of them, but yes, RJ Barrett and Joey Votto. We talked about baseball earlier to start the episode. So we're going to go full circle and a Joey Votto reference here in red, by the way, because the logo for the show is red. On Thursday, you'll see it's blue and the Dynasty Gambit, our logo's blue. Jordan Romano, that's a catcher as well.
No, relief pitcher.
Okay, there you go. Oops. Yep. I tried to take a guess.
for the Blue Jays.
I should know that better. I'm not that big a baseball fan. I mean, I know a couple of Jays players. I guess I know there's one pitcher who isn't doing good this year, Manoah. I think I can probably only name about 3 Blue Jays. Vladdy, Bo Bichette, whose name sounds like Boba Fett, which I always find cool. Yeah. He's kind of a killer. Yeah. So Dave knows this stuff better than me. Again, he's right in Toronto, so he's got a better access to the Blue Jays than I do.
Yeah, and Russell Martin. I'm surprised Dave didn't throw him yet.
He is Canadian, right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And for the Blue Jays. And played for the Blue Jays.
Yeah, I kind of remember that era. Yeah, he was there in the Batista era, the Donaldson, all those playoff runs. I do remember those. I don't usually watch baseball, but okay, Blue Jays playoff games, that I'll make an exception for that, and I'll watch those.
Yep.
But yes, I'm glad that you gave us full access to you, Jamie, and I thought this was a super fun conversation. Glad you were able to make this.
Yeah, no, great. I appreciate you having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Hope everyone enjoyed, whether you're watching it live, you watch it after the fact. Again, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Going for Two Live. There's a notification bell there that'll give you live updates for all the shows. Again, we've got a couple shows tomorrow night. I guess with the PLP on Friday, we've got a show every night from now until Sunday. So That's like 5 or 6 straight days with Going for Two live content. So again, be sure to subscribe, like all the videos. If you're watching after the fact, helps us out if you comment underneath, or if you're listening on the audio feeds, to subscribe wherever you're listening. And yeah, really appreciate all the support. Appreciate Jamie and Dave in the chat joining. And of course, I appreciate you, Jamie, for joining us on the show.
Well, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
This was a lot of fun. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching another episode of Press Coverage. Bye for now.